Well, welcome back if you're returning. Welcome if this is your first time. This is my ELM test prep series. I'm James S. And you can see some hashtags that you could search this series by. And that may have been how you arrived at this point in the first place. This particular episode is number 26, part 26 in the continuing saga of ELM test prep. We're going to talk a little bit more about the idea of average, mean, and median, and we're going to look at some of the types of questions they might ask. What we talked about median is being a physical quantity. So the first thing we deal with when we're talking about medians is we have to put the numbers in order. Increasing or decreasing doesn't matter, but we have to put them in order. And once we do that, then we will count the number of numbers top and bottom, and we will arrive at some midpoint physically. If I have an odd number, I will actually have a number that shows up. If I have an even, it will end up being between the two numbers. And we'll have to do a little bit of math possibly to get that. So median, the first thing is I have to put my numbers in order, and then I have to count equally up and down and find the middle. Well, if I have 7 numbers, I would have 3 here and 3 here, and the middle number would be my 7th digit. If I had an even number, like 8, I'd have 4 here and 4 here, and the median would be halfway between those two middle numbers. All right, so it's a physical location, and it does not move no matter what the value is. If I have 3, 5, and 2,000 up here, my median is the middle number, 5. Well, if this had only been 27, my median is still 5. It's the middle number physically. So the median is not susceptible to what we would call outliers, or some digit that might be unusually high for the group of numbers we're working with. Maybe we're looking at the height of the average student, and we're measuring people 5'4", 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", and all of a sudden a football player gets in our group and he's 6'2". So then he would tend to, if I were doing an average, he would tend to pull my average up toward that value because it's a mathematical. If we're talking median, it doesn't matter if he was 6'2", 7 foot, or anything. So median is a physical location. It is not affected by unusual numbers that are what we would call outliers. Okay, so let's talk about mean again, mean and average. They might say, well, they give you a sequence of numbers. We'll just say temperature of the day. It was 75 one day, the next day it was 72, the next day it was 84, the next day it was 76, and they might say, well, I will need one more day and I want to meet some average. I want my average to be this. And they say, well, what? And these might even be test scores, who knows? So they give you 4 numbers and they ask you what this last number would be to make this group of numbers have an average value of, say, we'll say 76. So we're looking for an average of 76, and we want this number to make that 76. Well, I have 76 here. Now, the quick way I do this, I'm looking for 76. I have one. This is 75. I'm going to borrow one from the 84. That'll make this 83. So this will now be a 76. Well, this needs 3, or 4 I should say, to be 76. So I'm going to borrow 4. That's 79. This is now 76. So I have 76, 76, 76, and I'm going to take and make this a 76 plus 3. In other words, I can borrow this 3 over here. So all I would need here would be a 73 plus that 3 to get 76. And then I would have an average, 76, 76, 76, and a total of 76. And 76 here, of course. So that would be my quick approach to this. Now, certainly you could do a mathematical approach, add them all up, and then figure out what it would be. But I tend to use the water method here. They're fairly simple numbers, and I just want them all to be equal. You might say, okay, I'm in a course and I've had 5 exams and I need an average of 76 or a passing grade of some value. So what would I need to score on my last test to get an average of 76? Well, this is the way I would do it. Now, assuming there's no weighting on these particular scores, I would just go, I'd even them all out, and then whatever was left over, I would then make that a total of 76. So that would be my quick approach to finding the average given a group of numbers. And that's one of the common ways they bring that up. The other might be they'll just give you a list of numbers and say, what is the average of those numbers? Well, let's say they say 27, 30, 25, and yeah, we'll make it easy. We'll make it a 20. So I might start off at 25 here and say, well, I'm going to borrow 5 from this, make this 25, and I'm going to add the 5 over here. So now I have a 25 here. 25, 25, 25. And I now have, I'm going to take the 2 out of this, make this a 25, and I have 2 left over. 25, 25, 25, 25. And then I have 2, which I'm going to spread between all 4 positions. Well, if I put 1 here and 1 here, that eats it up. So I'm going to put a half here, a half here, a half here, and a half here. So there's my 2, and my average is 25 and a half. They're all 25 and a half. So that's my quick approach to finding the average of that. Now, you can certainly spend some mathematical. You could add them all up and divide by 4, and that's certainly a valid approach. It may be a little bit time intensive, whereas I can just juggle stuff around and get a pretty good. If I get to 25 and I look at my answers and I have 23, 25 and half, and 27 and something like that, I know I'm really close to 25. I have 2 left over from my evening out. So it's a little more than 25, so there's my answer. That's going to be the approach I would take on doing a problem. And remember, this tutorial series is how do I pass my ELM test. It is not how do I do an average mathematically. I just want to get through my exam. Don't teach me a lot of math. I'm trying to give you that approach so you can use minimum math and use it in a logical manner. And that's why I suggest that approach. You can certainly use the mathematical approach. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so we've talked about mean / average, and we've talked about median. Remember, median is a physical position, and we have to put our numbers in order before we can do that. The reason we can't do it, 3, 5, 2, 7, I don't know what the mean is here, the median position is, because they're out of order. If I were to come down halfway, and I'd say halfway between 2 and 3, or 2 and 5 is 3.5 maybe. Well, if I put them in order, 2, 3, 5, and 7, well, halfway, the middle point is between 3 and 5, which is 4, so I ended up with an error. And depending on what numbers I ended up with, here is the 2 numbers in the middle. If I had had 9 and 7, then I'd be even further off. So remember, median, you have to organize your numbers first. All right, we're coming up on our 10-minute mark, and I like to hold us to somewhere in that. This has been a discussion, part 26, on mean and median and some of the kinds of questions and how to approach them. I'm James S. This has been an ELM test prep episode, and hope you enjoyed it, and hope it was helpful for you in these types of questions. Anyway, have a good day.